A lot is going on in general, and there are plenty of amusing things happening besides this. Of course, it needs some kind of serious, large scale disinfection. The Hague disinfection, yes. Once upon a time, fleas used to spread the plague, and the most talented among these creatures, the fleas, even managed to bite well, even kings on the backside. Naturally, fleas were greatly inspired by gatherings of crowned heads because it gave them the opportunity to significantly expand their list of high profile victims and, in general, the territory of the plague. And now, all across Europe, these agencies are crawling around, and just like fleas once spread the plague, these agencies are spreading Putinism. And today, Macron has ended up bitten, one knows exactly where. He may not even be at fault. Most likely, he simply missed the moment when the Lasiniados are, well, sort of pseudo Josen, the proboscis of the Kremlin flea, made their infamous bite. The consequences of the bite, of course, were nightmarish. The president of France suddenly suggested considering a return to dialogue with Putin. What and how can you even discuss with a deranged ghoul? That's a big mystery. Moreover, it's a huge mistake because all these conversations, all these contacts inflate the significance of the Kremlin dwarf. They make him seem bigger. After all, in Russia, people spit at the word Europe only for show and for appearances. In reality, the average Russian keeps a very close eye on. So, what exactly is happening with Putin's legitimacy on the international stage? Are people engaging with him or not? And any conversation at all, adds to Putin's legitimacy, at least within Russia. And that is precisely what should not be done. As I've already said, negotiations with Putin are like having intercourse with a poisonous jellyfish. The sensations are about the same, but there's far less point to it. Well, Macron surprised everyone with his remark. But don't forget that Macron has the opportunity to study and read D'Ancien Alphonse François de Sade, the Marquis, in the original at night. That explains a lot about Emmanuel Macron's behavior. Although, of course, he probably got into reading those pungent pages of de Sade thanks to Leopold von Sacher-Masoch. He is, well, so to speak, the man who gave his name to masochism. In fact, he was just a writer and wrote disgusting, rather vulgar novels. But, well, if anyone's interested, the remarkable psychiatrist Krafft Ebing actually took Sacher Masoch's surname as the term for masochism. Well, never mind. Now, Merz, the German Merz, do you remember that old Soviet poster, the one that says no, in response to being offered a drink? Well, Merz, just like the character from that old Soviet poster, gave a firm no to any negotiations with Putin. But I have to say that against the backdrop of all this disgraceful complacency and these inexplicable mysteries, there are still some who stand out in a very respectable way. For example, the president of Lithuania. We understand that in general, the political elites of the world are suffering from a grave, perhaps even fatal illness. And the name of this affliction, which plagues all the rulers of Europe, is chronic spineless. However, the extinction of this entire elite political crowd would, of course, be a regrettable event. But of course, it is something that can be survived one way or another. At one time, the EU elites already missed the emergence of a creature who surpasses Hitler in sadism and danger. I am referring to the rise of Putin. And now this creature struts around, reveling, forcing all these sniveling types to play along in these farcical negotiations. Meanwhile, the creature is amassing more and more iron and hordes of suicide orcs in order to keep killing people in Ukraine. And every second of this European complacency only strengthens the Kremlin creature. But now we know that the sick EU elite has a new concern dancing around, as they put it, Daddy Trump. And yet, another bout of delusional optimism. They pretend to believe that things are moving toward peace and that the Kremlin ghoul will just shrivel up from all the chatter of diplomats, journalists, and politicians. And in this delirium, any simply reasonable, simply honest word, of course, sounds like thunder. And these words were spoken by Lithuanian President Nausėda, who said, guys, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't believe in the possibility of ending the war. And in general, we see that instead of daring to drive a military political stake into the heart of the Kremlin ghoul, everyone is being coy, mincing words, thinking that the blood-crazed Russian vampire can be defeated with conferences and summits. It's clear that Europe's main efforts are spent on artistically trimming boxwoods at resorts, organizing gay parades, and on other small pleasures of life.